Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles Episode Reviews. Today we are wrapping up Avalon Part 2. The Archmages finish their time-hopping journey and arrive to receive the Eye of Odin, Phoenix Gate, and Grimorum Arcanorum from the Weird Sisters. The Sisters have also collected Demona and Macbeth, who are fully under Fae control. The assault on Clan Avalon begins. Elisa and Goliath are there to help, but what can they do against an Archmage, 2 Immortal Warriors, and 3 Fae? It looks like the villains have this one in the bag. If you missed the other parts, you can go read or listen to them. Control yourself. The Archmage has his hands full with Archie, his younger self, who wants to grab the Grimorum from Magus while the Skiffs are heading to Avalon. But the timeline rescues us from having a plot hole. The Archmage knows how the flow of time works, and that history must play itself out. There's really no point to grabbing it now anyway, since they can just zap into the future and pick it up from... Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. And here's a picture of the 3 Weird Sisters who have grown to gigantic proportions and are zapping Magus. Magus is zapping them back, and there's the Archmages watching. Giant triplets attacking from 3 skiffs and a barge. Well, that's just another day in the Gargoyles universe. Side note, the time stream wouldn't have allowed them to take the Grimorum anyway. Think of all the things that would have changed. For one, Xanatos would never have learned about the Gargoyles, so he never would have raised the castle. And, I guess you could argue that the time stream is actually playing a huge role in making sure that the Gargoyles wake up, that Xanatos, had the resources to wake them up in the first place, and that Demona and Macbeth became immortal. The time stream really set all this up if you trace it back far enough, and you trace back how much influence these actions and inactions at times had on the plot overall. Right, according to Greg, you can read his ramble and his memo on Avalon Part 2. There's the links in the blog. After Magus beats away the weird owl sisters, they fly off, only to meet the Archmage. He changes them back. They're highly irritated that they're blocked from Avalon now. Oberon made them guardians, yet a human mage defeated them with, quote, a parlor trick. Interesting anachronism. And I don't think it was a parlor trick. He's legitimately blocking your magic and turning back on you. Magus here, or the mage, this is the same expression Coyote had when he got the pack to hunt the gargoyles. The Archmage proposes an alliance. They're hesitant until he promises revenge on Magus. It's worth a shot, in the sister's opinion. Now, you had him at revenge. See, this is why I don't understand why Greg continued to say that these 3 had different personalities. I mean, Selena's supposed to be the vengeful one. She's the one with the black hair. Luna and Phoebe, they don't seem to really care about, giving grace and mercy to Magus. They're right on board, too. Anyway, the Archmage and Archie zap to 10:20 when Demona is raiding the countryside with her clan. She is cannon fodder, says the Archmage, when Archie points out that she betrayed him in the past. I'm going to say he knows about cannons because the Eye gives him mega ultra uber insight, so he doesn't have to go into the real world to see them. Or maybe, since everybody's probably speaking a language other than English, even though we hear it as English, but they were from, 990s Scotland, yeah. It can mean whatever they want it to mean, I guess. We're not doing her any favors, he says. Oh, there's a dig on immortality, or so the writers probably think. It really just shows that you want to pick your terms if you're going to be immortal. I mean, I don't think Demona had a whole lot of problems being immortal. She has been causing trouble for the last 1,000 years, or 500, not including the time she's asleep. And there's a picture of her fighting, and it's that much more rewarding to have her working for Archie since she betrayed him. Plus, she has magic. When they teleport over to Castle Moray, where Macbeth and his dad are sparring with swords, Archie is not impressed, but the Archmage knows Mac's future. Not the best first impression scene there, and Dad has him on the ground. The mages meet the sisters. The Archmage shows them Demona and Macbeth and tells the sisters to protect them and to influence their paths. The Fae are hesitant since Oberon's law forbids them from interfering in the mortals' lives. But rules are made to be bent. If you have magic and you're not making holograms, you are doing it wrong. He's got holograms of Macbeth and Demona, as we know them. The Archmage was behind Demona and Macbeth's fate? Well, that's a twist. The writers are really outdoing themselves. Yeah, he must have some really big plan for them. Certainly not just using them as trigger men. 2020 moment. Yeah, he is, which I will get into later. The sisters are also to watch for the Eye of Odin, Phoenix Gate, and Grimoire Marcanorum. They are to meet again with the magical items in 975 years. Time is nothing to them, since they are immortal. Again, kind of ruins the argument against immortality, but we don't have time to dawdle, so we time jump to 1995. Archie is set on taking over Scotland when he becomes powerful. But the Archmage has bigger plans. Why stop at Scotland? Take the world. Avalon will be his headquarters since humans can't go there. Luckily for the mages, it's abandoned. Other than the humans and all the gargoyles who are living there, it's totally deserted. Is that kind of like how people, quote, discover a continent and then get attacked by the natives who are already living there and have been for a long time? Breaking news, if there are people there already, you didn't discover it. Otherwise, you could just sail away from England, turn around and land there again and say you discovered it. And there he is, cue maniacal laughter, looking quite villainy. Achievement unlocked, Archmage power. You don't need an army when you have Mac and D. The sisters arrive with the magical items. Then the Archmage helps Archie bond with the Eye. It gives him a snazzy new style. Head on, apply directly to the forehead. It's got lightning bolts coming out of it as it latches onto him. The Eye and the Gate were both forged on Avalon, so there's no problem bringing them to the island. The Grimoire, though, presents a problem. It's really interesting to know some of the backstory on those items because, the Eye is its own thing. You just touch it or bond with it somehow. I mean, obviously touching it isn't a problem since Goliath touched it, Xanatos touched it. It's not a big deal. But somehow you have to bond with it. And then you have the Gate, which, interestingly enough, functions with a Latin, which is usually a human magic phrase or spell. So I don't know who originally forged that. I would have to look that up. If it's written anywhere. It probably is. I'm sure Greg has it somewhere. Alright, there are so many rules with this whole Avalon thing. With not being able to bring the Grimoire in. So Archie asks, how do you expect me to get it in? Eat it? Yeah, he does. Oh, why didn't I think of that? And he just somehow shoves it into his mouth. There's energy around it, so apparently it's magic. Yep, it must be the Eye and the Gate that allow him to consume the book. Otherwise, somebody probably would have tried it before. Or not. It's pretty strange. That's one way to consume good literature, I guess. I'm wondering why, now that the subject's been presented, nobody tried to meld with all three items before. The Archmage didn't strike me as a visionary or a genius. Surely someone else realized the Eye, Gate, and Grimoire would make a great trio. I'm also unsure why the Eye isn't doing any freaky eye effects, like turning him into a werebeast or whatever. Is it because he's a mage and can control it? I theorize that he can't control it, and the Archmage is the form the Eye turns Archie into. It gives him power and insight, right? Also, the Archmage made sort of like a skull cap for Archie with magic first, which might function like a tinfoil hat. I don't know. And if it is something that the Eye turns him into, then it explains his lust for vengeance and his blindness to anything else, and just, I don't know, just general stupidity for some things, or maybe not stupidity, but again, poor judgment. Another goal of the Archmage is to keep the sleeping king from awakening, because the king's power is great. Archie is shocked that the legend is true. And one guess who the sleeping king is. All things are true, says the sisters. Now, the legend he's talking about is, of course, King Arthur. He's rumored to have never died, but to have gone to sleep under the hill in Avalon, waiting to wake and defend Britain when she truly needs him. So far, so good for the Archmage's plan. It's no surprise to him, since it's already succeeded. Fish in a barrel. The Archmage then attacks Oberon's castle with Macbeth and Demona as, yes, shock troop, triggermen. The attackers make short work of the defenders. But as usual, the villain isn't going to kill the protags just yet. No, we need to wait until morning when they're stone. Hey, mate, you have the Grimorum. You can turn them to stone or do any number of interesting things to them right now. I mean, from what we've seen with just a couple pages of the Grimorum that Demona stole, you can do some amazing things, and he has the entire book. Action poses for Demona and Macbeth there. He has his lightning pistol and she has the laser rifle. Okay, wait. There's a better plug to the plot hole here. The Archmage wants Tom to bring Goliath to Avalon so the Archmage can have revenge on G. Why not just secure power here, then venture into the wider world? Find Goliath out there and then kill him after sunup. Oh, but that's not revenge, remember? Gratuitous demonstration of power follows from the Archmage. And he has his own standards for how revenge is supposed to go down, which is why we now have a hologram of him in the sky, giving them an ultimatum, which is basically prepare to die. Stop doing the I'll kill you but not just yet villain cliche, guys. Back at the castle, Goliath is plotting. He can get the eye and the gate away from the Archmage. That will weaken him. Oh yeah, no problem. We'll just ask him nicely and I'm sure he'll hand them over. And there's Magus looking sad and Princess Cat behind him. It's been decades. Magus' self-esteem is still tied to the Grimorum's magic. Goliath thinks they can use magic, but Magus has none. Magus says that without his magic, I am useless. And we'll touch on this later. So, I'll let this go for now. Katherine rushes to his moral support. He doesn't need magic to be useful. She's been telling him this for decades, but to no avail. Goliath is learning. He says they need stealth for this. Oh wow, stealth. A stealth mission. This must be a surgical strike, he says. Must have been watching some news. He also assigns Elisa the task of coming up with a contingency plan to defeat the Archmage. Worcester's Macbeth and Demona. Hey, no pressure. Elisa remembers Magus mentioning the Sleeping King. Perhaps that's a clue. A clue, Shaggy. Elsewhere, the Archmage is ready to have some fun. Final thoughts. This is the middle of the ep of the triptych, so it's going to be another major setup ep. We know that the backstory of our protagonists and that antagonists comes into play here, but the next ep will wrap it all up. The time travel here is done well, making the plots like this believable, or at least logical, is tough, especially when you have to use existing eps and can't add too much, but they pull it off. The character transformation in the Archmage is also well done. He has limited time to graduate from the small-minded Archmage, Castle Wyvern, who I still don't see as someone who would be likely to have the Grimorum when he seems a little better than a hedge wizard who can sling lightning, to the Archmage. The Archmage has wonderful ambition. He wants the world. He's excellent at thinking outside the box, too. I mean, Avalon and time travel? Not the first options that come to mind. Well, tune in next time to find out how the protags face what seem to be insurmountable odds. We learn yet again that effective villains and antagonists have ditched revenge. Like a cat, it's nothing but trouble. Well, what did you guys think of episode 2? Did you get lost with all that time travel, or were you able to keep up? I thought it was fairly clear. And what do you think about his choice of Demona and Macbeth? And should he have brought more people, or were those enough? And is trusting the sisters a wise move? Well, remember to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.